tonight. Changes coming as we launch into a new year.
Well, we found like first edition Margaret Atwood.
Writing the next chapter, new owners take over a beloved used bookstore. Crocheting for kindness. Meet the women behind the warmth that is Neighborhood Angels.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, January the 2nd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. As we flip the calendar into the new year, that means province-wide property tax reevaluation is on the horizon. Alexander Kwan breaks down what that means for you.
Tax season is coming, and in Saskatchewan, 2025 marks the next cycle of property revaluation. It happens every 4 years. Why? So that the province and municipalities know that a property's value actually reflects the current real estate market. There are generally 4 classes of property in the province. Arable agricultural land, that's the land you grow on, is taxed at 55% of its assessed value. Non-arable land, that's the land you can't grow things on, is taxed at 45% of its assessed value. Commercial land is taxed at 85% of its assessed value, and residential is taxed at 80% of its assessed value. The province does play a role in property taxes. It sets the percentages, but it's already decided to leave them the same as 4 years ago. That means the assessed value of a property might change, but the percentage you will pay taxes on will not. Here's what that looks like for residential property owners.
It's your property, it's worth $100,000. You don't pay taxes on $100,000. You pay taxes on $80,000. So $80,000 is what you pay taxes on, and that is 80%.
The criteria municipalities use to determine a property's value include location, size, type, and age. It means neighborhoods across the city could see vastly different fluctuations in value. In Regina, the city has already released its preliminary property value estimates, which you can find on the city's website.
So what we're seeing right now is an overall change for the city of Regina is an increase of 3.5%. Our residential properties, we're seeing increase around 4% average, and for commercial, it's around 3%.
Now, municipalities can choose to phase in the assessed value over a couple of years, and it's been done before. But that's a decision that each municipality has to make on its own. Anyone unhappy with their new property value can launch an appeal, and official notices of assessment are set to roll out in January. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Okay, so we know how property taxes could change for you, but what else changes with 2025? From carbon tax to capital gains and a lowered age for breast cancer screening. Aishwarya Duda has the details on what could affect you.
2025 will see changes to existing tax measures and some new ones, but there's no need for a crystal ball to see how they could affect you. We know the federal carbon tax is going up, and so are carbon rebates. Starting January 1st, Sask Power customers will see their bills go up nearly 3%. But the government promises the average Saskatchewan family will get back $480 every quarter, with the first checks arriving January 15th. There's also some legislative changes coming. The age for breast cancer screening eligibility drops to 40 from 50 for the first time. The expansion will allow women who do not have symptoms of breast cancer to get mammograms. Premier Scott Moe's promise to raise personal income tax exemptions was supposed to start in the new year, but that won't be happening until later this year. The province says it's waiting to hear back from CRA and the federal government to implement those exemptions. The province is cracking down on wild boar farms with a moratorium on the practice, an attempt to stop the growing populations in the wild. Existing farms had until yesterday to apply for a license. Also, the federal government increased the capital gains tax. The change could affect those who make gains over $250,000, but legislation is yet to be passed to formalize that. In Saskatoon, the city will be charging more for some services. The rate for water and wastewater will increase by almost 5%. Curbside organics, recycling, and garbage also go up by a fraction. That will mean paying an extra couple dollars a month. Regina is yet to debate on its 2025 budget. We won't have full details until spring. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The Saskatchewan United Party could soon be on the lookout for a new leader. John Rummick has resigned. Rummick says he will step away from involvement in party affairs. Sask United received around 18,000 votes in the fall provincial election, but failed to elect any members. Rummick says the issues the party raised during that campaign are still relevant. That includes the need to keep a lid on taxes. The president of the party thanked Rummick for his leadership. No word yet on when the party will choose a new leader. Alberta is following Saskatchewan's lead in adding a tax on electric vehicles. EV owners in Alberta will pay a $200 annual registration fee, $50 more than we charge here. The Alberta government says it's to make up for lost fuel tax revenue. That helps pay for road work. But many EV drivers argue flat fees don't take into account how much someone drives. They're calling for alternatives like taxing of mileage used in some U.S. states. Well, if you're driving around on a cold day like today, you might be wondering if electric vehicles actually stand up to Saskatchewan's frigid temperatures. Alex Soloduca takes a look.
Posts like these might have you wondering if electric vehicles can really hold up to Canadian winters. I spoke to one owner who says they really can.
It's the warmest, most reliable vehicle I've ever owned in my life. I've driven this vehicle for 6 years. This is my 6th winter, and it's an awesome car. Norway is the #1 market for electric vehicles in the world, and Norway is very much a winter country. They're basically in the Arctic Circle. So if those cars work there, they're definitely going to work here.
He preheats his car using an app on his phone and can even start it safely in the garage. And if it's plugged in at the time, it doesn't use any battery power to do that. But there have been lots of studies on EVs in winter, and experts say keeping the car warm while driving when it's frigid outside can mean the battery might die faster. So you might not be able to go quite as far on a charge, what they call range loss.
We analyzed 13 different popular EV models this year, and the range loss can vary by vehicle. It can be as little as 11% in freezing conditions, or as much as almost 30%. 28% is what we saw in some vehicles. The average is about 20%.
So this vehicle goes from about 450 kilometers of driving range to about 300 to 350. All depends on what I'm doing, but it's never affected me in my day-to-day life. I drive this vehicle every day, even when it's minus 60, and I drive it across Western Canada to go snowboarding every winter. So it's never stopped me from doing what I want to do.
We generally drive much shorter trips to the grocery store and to work or school. And so day to day, people that drive an electric car don't experience any of the concerns that people think about when they're in that purchasing process.
He said this range anxiety peaks about 2 years before someone buys an EV and reduces gradually after that to be basically non-existent when they actually own the vehicle. Plus, he stressed that there's no permanent damage done to a battery because of the cold weather.
As soon as spring comes and the ground thaws, your car will be back to full range.
Back in Saskatchewan, Matt says he finds his EV to be more affordable than a vehicle that takes gas.
It only cost me $50 a month to drive it. I basically have almost no maintenance with this vehicle in the last 6 years.
And more people seem to be switching to electric. The number of electric vehicles in the province is 12 times higher than it was just 5 years ago, now sitting at about 2,500, according to SGI. And Sask Power has been working with EV owners in case of a bigger boom.
I'm not aware of any issues that we're seeing on the grid due to EV charging right now. I think it's more of just us looking to be prepared for the future, as we start to see more and more, right? More EVs, and we want to make sure we're ready for them.
Sask Power also told us that drivers who switch to electric vehicles reduce their emissions by about 30% a year. Alex Soloduca, CBC News, Regina.
There's a new hub for young people in Regina. Home Base is a safe space for anyone aged 12 to 25 years old. It's the third one to open up in Saskatchewan, and it focuses on integrated youth services. It's a hub that was co-designed by 17 young people across Saskatchewan to fit the needs of both rural and urban youth. It offers mental health support, cultural supports, and primary health care.
We're really looking at, again, this for youth by youth model, which means not having someone around our age range in those spaces. They might not understand what's happening right now. If we're talking about navigating different systems, someone your own age likely better understands some of the different aspects you'll go through.
Regina's home base hub is located in the new YWCA building just west of Albert Street on 12th Avenue. It has both drop-in or appointment times for youth to utilize their programming. Oh, it was a frosty, frigid start to 2025, but the best news is the sun has finally returned to shine on our faces. It has been a really cloudy stretch here in the province. So how long are we going to see the sun, and how long are we going to have to bundle up to endure this crisp, cold weather? Ethan Williams will have more in his forecast for us after the break. Stay with us. A Saskatoon couple is turning the page on their first year as owners of Westgate Books. They bought the used bookstore in the spring and had piles of books to sort through. Jeremy Warren visited the shop to learn more.
This is all literature, overstock. There used to be, well, you can see boxes like this. There used to be 15, 20 boxes here. We went through them, we've organized.
The stock room at Westgate Books is tidier than it's been in years. Luke Cernick and partner Nikki are sorting through the inventory of the used bookstore they bought this year. There's about 100,000 books between the shelves and storage, and plenty of gems still to find.
You know, there's probably, well, we found like first edition Margaret Atwood. We did sell it, but so I can't show you, but yeah, just interesting things like that. And yeah, lots of surprising books.
Luke and Nikki met in Vancouver, where they both worked in the arts industry. They moved to Saskatoon about 4 years ago and were regular customers at Westgate. Their fantasy turned into reality when they heard the store was for sale.
We both always just really loved used bookstores. We spent a lot of time in used bookstores, and we talked about opening a used bookstore, but it wasn't necessarily that serious. But then when the opportunity came by to actually buy one, when one was for sale, we thought, well, we should jump on this opportunity and go for it.
They're planning a long overdue upgrade to an electronic inventory system. The previous owner had kept it all in his head. They also want to start hosting community events like writers' nights and do more to engage young readers.
That would surprise a lot of people that there are a lot of, maybe the majority of our customers are younger people. A lot of people seem to think that young people don't read anymore, don't buy books anymore, and that's not true.
Westgate has changed owners a few times since it opened back in 1972, but this young couple thinks they're writing the store's best chapter yet. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A group of women in Saskatoon are knitting for the greater good of the city. Neighborhood Angels Saskatoon donates thousands of knit items to people who need them most. Helena Mahalik reports.
Belle Messier says she crochets for up to 4 hours a day. She used to create blankets and toys she would donate to animal shelters. Now she's part of a volunteer group that creates blankets, mitts, toques, and scarves for vulnerable people in Saskatoon.
Handmade is really from the heart. You know, it's not like a factory blanket, it's a one of a kind. And I think that people deserve that in their lives. They deserve nice things. You know, even if they can't afford them, they should be able to have them.
We have a box full of product made by the ladies.
Glenn Scrimshaw started Neighborhood Angels last year.
And here's my favorite, the little hats for babies, for newborns.
He scours the city for knitting supplies to give to volunteers and drops it off at Prairie Lily Knitting, a needlework shop in the city. Then he picks up their finished products.
And there's some blankets in this one here. Dorothy brought those yesterday.
Oh, nice.
And they can go to the nursery.
Last year, the woman made 2,000 items, and this year they're on track to create another 1,500. Scrimshaw was inspired to do this by his mother.
My mother was doing this in a care home, and sadly, she developed dementia and could no longer knit. She couldn't remember how to do it. And I would distribute her finished products to some different charities, and they were all very, very happy to get them. And it was kind of sad that this was going to end. And I said to myself, well, Self, what can we do about this? Could we maybe start a group? Could we do something?
There's lots to use.
Messier says the donated yarn allows her to crochet more, including blankets for newborn babies. As she works on her pieces, she imagines the babies using something she has put so much effort into.
I tried to put all of my good intentions into this blanket. And I was thinking about, there'll be probably a little baby boy, and I could see, while I was doing this, this little boy all swaddled in this blanket.
Pass them down the line here.
Scrimshaw delivers the finished knitted products to 3 different charities. On this day, he's dropping off warm clothing to the Saskatoon Police Service Mobile Crisis Unit.
Yeah, we're going to stock up the cars today.
Officers give the items to people on the streets.
The complex needs people in the city, giving toques and cold weather gear out to anyone you can imagine. Anybody who doesn't have access to those sorts of resources on the street, we get Glenn's stuff into their hands.
Neighborhood Angels also donates to the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital and Sanctum 1.5. A transitional care home which supports high-risk HIV-positive pregnant women.
Let's see what we have here.
Scrimshaw says carrying on his mother's legacy and helping people in need brings him joy.
Oh, wow.
Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Oh, and people need those warm woolies on days like today, Ethan. It's been cold.
It's been cold, and unfortunately, I think it's going to get even colder than what we've seen on this Thursday here as the temperatures continue to drop and the extreme cold warnings go into effect as we see those in place for places like the Battlefords and Lloydminster over to Kindersley Rosetown. Wind chills as we head overnight into Thursday and Friday, and then again Friday, Saturday, probably around that -40 mark. And even though you may not be under the extreme cold warning, doesn't mean it's not going to be cold where you are in the province, because even through Thursday here, we've had trouble getting above -20 in many parts of south and central Saskatchewan, and especially into the north. This has been feeling like -30 in many parts of the southern half of the province today. A little bit of a reprieve into southwestern Saskatchewan, where we've gotten into those mid-minus teens, but even at that, that's a bit below seasonal for this time of year. We have seen some clearing skies, though. Last couple of days, we've seen a bit of some cloud cover, some flurries here and there, but the sun coming out for parts of south and central today and into far northern sections of the province. That clearing is going to continue because we have this big area of high pressure which begins to move through these next couple of days here, and that will be bringing us some nice clear conditions, but it'll also be reinforcing that cold air. So that's what's going to be helping those temperatures drop back. As that starts to depart as we head into the weekend, we see a little bit of cloud cover moving in. That's going to bring a bit of an improvement to our temperatures come Saturday, but possibly some snow for the Cypress Hills and into southwestern Saskatchewan, and maybe for Regina and Saskatoon as we get into the early morning hours into Sunday. It's not going to be much for Regina, Saskatoon, but especially higher elevations around the Cypress Hills. This model, a couple of the models actually, saying maybe 10 to 15 centimeters as we get through the weekend here. But outside of that, maybe a good 5 to 10 in places like Maple Creek and Val-Marie. Now, that cold air is the result of the jet stream, which has dropped far south of our province, allowing that Arctic air to come down. And especially early Saturday morning, these are wind chill values into the -40s, especially into the north, and temperatures into the -30s. But again, with that system moving in Sunday, we start to see those temperatures bump up a bit. Winds will still continue to be breezy from time to time, especially as that system moves through. So that's what's kind of driving those wind chills as we get into the weekend. But temperature-wise for us here, this is how things are expected to pan out for Regina. Those chilly couple of days, I'm putting it at a 40% chance of some flurries or some light snow on Sunday. Again, not a whole lot of moisture for Regina. And then things start to smarten up temperature-wise here as we get into the middle of next week with another round of some flurries or light snow possible Thursday. Saskatoon, overnight Friday into Saturday. That's going to be a frigid one before things improve a bit for the weekend. We drop back there on Monday and then a return to more seasonal conditions. So starting 2025 on a chilly note, Sam, thankfully doesn't look like the deep freeze is going to last too long.
That sounds good. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Britain is renowned for historic sites. One is being unearthed near London that predates the city by 166 million years. Archaeologists have found dinosaur tracks. How the tracks were preserved isn't clear just yet. 200 prints stretch 150 meters with much of the excavation ahead. We'll be back after the break. You may have seen them at events like Comic-Con or in the Santa Claus parade or maybe just on the internet. Furries. They're people who adopt animal characters with a human appearance. We caught up with a few of them to learn more.
People look at it and some people, what is this? Like, I started off with Jouk Canada Games like over 20 years ago here in Regina. I wanted to get involved with like the running and cycling part like this. And they said, no, we don't want you for this to be our mascot character. And I'm like, what's a mask like? Okay, that's for kids. As soon as I put the costume on, it's an escape. I found it put me into another, I'm a bit of an extrovert as it is, but this was like turbocharged it. Now you're at the center of your light, you can see everybody wants to see you, and I just loved it. Also this experience, the energy, what you get, they love. And when you put these on, it is magical. When people see you, they don't see you as a human, they see you as a character, an animal of some sort. Most of the furries, I call them like independent mascots, and we're representing ourselves. And it's still, we do the same things. We'll go to charity events, we help out around the community. You just go out and you have fun. But you're not walking around as a human, you're walking around as a big furry animal. 99.9% of people, they're smiling, they want to see this, they love this whole idea of this amazing costume, this creation, and you get so many pictures. For a brief moment, when you put these things on, you're in another realm. It's not you anymore. It could only be half an hour, but for half an hour, your whole life, what you were used to, the day-to-day rings with work, stress, taxes, whatever else you got, the political scenes, whatever, this is gone.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And look up at the skies. We have a meteor shower going on, the quadrantid meteor shower, the strongest of the season, by the way. Peaking Thursday into Friday, but you can see it all the way to January 12th. As many as 120 meteors per hour, and you will likely have some clearing skies through south and central Saskatchewan, although you're going to need to bundle up if you're going to go out there because we got temperatures near -30, wind chills near -40 for a lot of us, and of course extreme cold warnings in place, feeling likely into the mid-40s, especially as far north as Stony Rapids there. Not much of an improvement for temperatures as we head through northern Saskatchewan tomorrow, although that area of high pressure will make things nice and sunny for us, and similarly through south and central through the day. Not noticing a huge improvement in these temperatures as we get to the 4 o'clock hour. Mostly sunny skies, fairly light winds, but yes, feeling into the -30s, Sam.
A cold one for sure. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching.